Well, I don't know if you know this, but you're the first person I've done this with, and I have about 20 of them lined up.
Okay, nice.
So I'll just let you know that you're the first that came to mind.
I
Um,
appreciate it.
so yeah, absolutely. I guess in regards to kind of starting these, I guess my goal is pretty simple. It's to kind of get out there and I guess help people tell their stories, not mine. And I guess being connected with so many people kind of over a long time of coaching basketball in Rockford, there's certainly some stories that I'd like to explore, nationally, but certainly cover like Rockford. And a lot of times, I get stuck with the task of answering questions. Hey, who's this guy? Who's this guy? Who's this guy? And for some reason,
Sure. I go to you for that.
fortunate enough to believe, or fortunate enough to be that sounding board, and sometimes getting in front of the camera and telling people my relationship, hopefully helps their program and not hurt it. but it could certainly hurt it a little bit, but I think hopefully it will help it more than it will hurt it.
I think it will.
But tell me about, I guess the first couple of years. Last year I followed you guys, didn't get a chance to make it to a game. You guys were surfing around that 500 range for that first year. And I thought it was, from afar and from talking to you, sounded like a good stepping stone. And here we are kind of stuck in COVID. You want to just tell me about the last couple of years?
Yeah. I'm just excited to be back home, back at Rockford University. It's just anytime it's just difficult taking over a program, and it's difficult for the players to have a new coach, especially, guys going into their junior and senior year, stuff like that, having a new coach, you want to make that an easy transition for them. And it was difficult leaving my previous school, a place that had been for 9 years, and a lot of guys worked really hard to build that into a winning program. But this opportunity came up, and a lot of good things going on at Rockford University, and then ultimately this being my home area, having my family here, and then we talked about just having my son. It's great to be back home, and I want to be here. We got a group of guys that want to be here. I got fortunately have a really great coaching staff to pick up my weaknesses. We got some good young coaches. So it's been a smooth transition. Our administration made a smooth transition, and the kids ultimately have been phenomenal. And every coach talks about that, and then maybe behind the scenes goes and says something else. That's not the case. These guys have been great. They have been a lot of fun to coach. It starts with those returners like the Brandon Emmerichs of the world that just make your job easy because they practice so hard. They play hard. They are just great people. And the older I get, the longer I'm in coaching, I just want good people around. And it's you can teach some of the other stuff, but it's hard to teach somebody at 18 or 20 years old to be a good person. So get good people and coach them. And when your best players are your hardest workers and best teammates, it makes it pretty fun. And I think that's what we have right now.
Yeah, take us back a little bit. I know your history probably more than most, maybe. But take us back to the Oregon high school days, playing for a guy, I believe played for Coach Mike Winters, right?
Yes. Yep.
And then you transitioned to Rock Valley, and then kind of what spurred you into the college coaching stuff?
So I have been a mediocre or less basketball player my entire life. But I tell you what, I grew up on a dairy farm down in Oregon. It kind of all starts with that, because that is where work ethic comes in, and just where from shooting hoops out on the farm, and thinking I was really good playing against Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen in my head, and then all of a sudden you play against real people, and I'm like, man, I'm not very good.
Yeah. Well, come on.
Well, I get into high school, and I was, again, just an average player, but Coach Winters took over Oregon High School my junior year.
Okay.
And I learned so much in that time. I didn't play a ton as a junior. We had some really good players, but I learned so much. Just stuff like terminology that I didn't know. Hard hedging on screens, different stuff like that maybe I didn't even pick up as a freshman and sophomore. I learned a ton from him. My knowledge of the game increased. My love for the game increased. And I got to the point where I got the senior year, and I was playing, and we had a good team. I'm like, how can I continue playing? I want to keep this going.
Absolutely.
And obviously not a ton of people beating down my door. And you were at Rock Valley, and Coach likes. Yeah. And yeah, not a great player, but I got the opportunity. I don't think I took full advantage of it, but as far as just, it's funny now looking back as a coach and seeing players, I can relate really well to a lot of different players that have been in my shoes, where you come in as a freshman or come in as a young player and think, okay, well, now I've been working hard, I deserve this, or, hard work doesn't guarantee anything, but if you don't work hard, it guarantees you're not going to be successful in college basketball. And so I learned a lot from that year. I got the chance to go out to Bernard College in Iowa. That actually ended up closing in 2008, but got a chance to play there for Coach Larry Olson. And just a phenomenal person. Learned about basketball. Got a chance to play for him. I became a better player. Had some good years. My senior year, we made the national tournament. Had some fun there. Went to Oklahoma City and played the national tournament there. That was a lot of fun. I learned so much from him as far as being a person. He cared about everybody as a person, first and foremost. And looking back as a coach, like, man, we probably could have been disciplined a little bit more, but you knew that he loved us and cared about us. Unfortunately, Coach Olson has since passed away from cancer. But I cared about him a lot. He was a phenomenal guy. Actually, my sister ended up playing for him a few years later out in Kansas when he switched over to the women's side as he got older. So that being said, I played there. I graduated from William Penn University, so it's kind of the same town there in Oskaloosa, Iowa. Coach Henry at William Penn's a guy that doesn't really allow outsiders in his program, and I kind of came in and said, hey, can I get an opportunity to be a student assistant?
Grad assistant, right?
Well, no, I became a student assistant first.
Okay.
And he was like, well, we don't really allow people. And I can get into a whole big story of how this all went out. And he didn't really want me around there because I wasn't a William Penn guy. I didn't play for him.
Sure.
And somewhere along the lines, we bonded. I went on some long recruiting trips with his staff. And, I was eager to learn. I kind of initially thought I wanted to coach. I thought, all right, I'm gonna get. I had a history degree. I'll teach high school somewhere. I'll coach. I'll work on the farm. And somewhere in there, just the college part, I really fell in love with the recruiting part and getting to meet people. I mean, basketball is growing up on a dairy farm. We didn't travel. We didn't go on vacations. All of a sudden, I get to college. I'm an assistant coach, and I'm going to Louisiana on a recruiting trip, driving out to Arizona. I don't like to fly, so I drove a lot of places. And Coach Henry didn't like to fly either. So we did a lot of crazy drives. And he was a guy that was always family first. He wanted to win, but he would say, Reigle, we're going to drive to Thibodaux, Louisiana tomorrow. And from South Central Iowa, we would leave at 9:30 at night because he wanted to put his kids to bed first. And we'd hit the road at 9:30 at night and drive all through the night, middle of Missouri, Arkansas, all that stuff. And I learned so much from him on those road trips, just talking basketball, talking life. And he's always been a family first guy. And I respect the heck out of that. So that got to the point where I met some people and working some camps, doing some things. I got an opportunity to go up and be a volunteer assistant at Presentation College in Aberdeen, South Dakota. I'd finished up, I graduated. It is really hard to get into college coaching. I was fortunate enough to have a little bit of money saved up, and I was like, okay, I can go anywhere in the country. What can I do? I go up there. I was actually only there for a couple months in the summer of 2009. And, I got to know the AD, and I was an assistant there. I was pouring cement out of the soccer field for the soccer sheds. I was kind of just doing whatever I needed to do, traveling, recruiting, kind of learning some more. And then Coach Rebson, I believe it was Jeff Wing over 4th of July called me and said, hey, are you looking to get college coaching still? I said, yeah. I mean, I'm volunteering out in Aberdeen, South Dakota.
Right.
I said, he's like, well, a graduate assistant job is opening up here at Rockford with Coach Rebson. And he said, are you interested? And I've been preached and been around a lot of loyal people. My first reaction, like, no, I can't leave. I'm out here in South Dakota now. But I talked to the athletic director, talked to the head coach, like, well, you're volunteering here. This is an opportunity. The graduate assistant program paid for your master's, pays for your housing, gives you a small stipend, meal plan, all that stuff. So ultimately, I came back and met with Coach Rebson and Coach Wing at the time. I'm sure you know Jeff Wing, phenomenal player.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just gave me the opportunity there that was a great experience being with Coach Rebson. And then just so happened that the coach at Presentation that following year resigned, and the AD said, hey, I was impressed with you in your time out here. Would you be interested in coming back and being our head coach? I said, absolutely. So that was 9 years going out there. The first couple of years, we were actually NCAA Division III. Had I think 10 previous years of losing, and it took to year 3. We got our first winning record, 15-10. We kind of kept building from there. Had a couple of down years of some seniors and stuff. We actually had one of the things that shaped my coaching the most was in 2015. We had a tragic accident where one of our student assistants and a player died in a car accident.
Oh yeah.
And it was devastating. It was tragic.
Sure.
And difficult time for our entire program, obviously just because of young people. And then from a basketball standpoint, Terry, our student assistant, was a guy that just led our program and was a great go-between between the players and the coaches. He was a young guy, had played for me, and I had coached that guy harder than probably anybody I've ever coached in my life. So he was all on board. He did a good job of kind of the go-between between players and coaches. And then Cameron Israel was a returning all-conference player, the returning league scorer coming back that next year.
Sure.
That was a difficult year that following year. So that we struggled that year. And then kind of bounced back. And then in 18-19 won a conference championship. It was the first one in school history. Had the most wins in school history. Did a lot of special things. And my wife and I loved it in South Dakota. There's great people. We did some great things. Miss a lot about that. Miss a lot of people. And then ultimately this job, when Coach Weber resigned, I talked to Coach Weber that day, and we talked about Rockford, we talked about the players, talked about a lot of stuff. I talked to Coach Rebson. I kind of wanted to get some people's blessing too to come back, and is this something I can at least look into do? And talked to Coach Winters a lot about that as well. Obviously being well connected in the area.
Sure.
And God has a plan. It's crazy if I would have told me back in 2004 when I was around you where I'd end up or how things would happen, I could have never guessed. I could never imagine myself. Even though I dreamed of it and wanted to be a college basketball coach, I could have never imagined I'd get the opportunity to do that. And I feel really blessed to do that. And I feel really blessed to be here at Rockford doing that.
Well, I think it's fun, I guess sharing your story. I knew it as it unfolded, I guess. But I didn't necessarily know about the relationship with Presentation College. I knew the relationships that you had here and the opportunities that popped up at Rockford University because of your relationships and your basketball knowledge, of course, obviously. But to leave a school to then be hired back, really says something about somebody's character. I think that's pretty awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about Presentation, about where they were as a school, and what you took them to when you first got there?
Yeah, it's a small school in Aberdeen, South Dakota. As most people would know, if you know stuff about basketball, Aberdeen is the home of Northern State University and Don Meyer. And I got a wonderful opportunity when I first got there to be around him and talk to him. And every time I sat next to him, we'd have one thing. We talked a lot about farming because he grew up on a farm as well. Nice. So, and that's the life stories he's had. Were phenomenal. Obviously, the basketball stuff he had. I mean, he was phenomenal there. But I just love the life stories and a lot of stuff we took from him. Just sitting down talking to him. And people think basketball, think about Aberdeen, South Dakota. They usually think about Don Meyer. Sure. So at Presentation, again, not a great history. They had won some early in the 2000s. They were actually NAI at that time. A new president came in and kind of wanted to make the move to NCAA Division III. They kind of struggled at that level. Like I said, it took to year 3 for us to have a winning record at the Division III level. And then some athletics came in and changed things up. The enrollment was really dropping. They were kind of struggling. They made the switch back to NAI, and that kind of changed things because we went from having 12 or 15 guys on our team to all of a sudden we were having 45, 46, 47 players on our team, which is just adds a whole new dimension of difficulties. But it gives a lot of guys opportunities. And as we're sitting here talking about these things and talking about coaching, some of the guys I still talk to. Matter of fact, next summer I'm going back to be in a wedding for a guy that played 2 years of JV basketball for me and decided, all right, I love it here. I love being around you, but I'm not going to play anymore. And that guy never played a varsity minute for me, but we stayed that close. So you think about, man, sometimes having that many guys on a team is difficult, but there's special relationships built up throughout the program. It was a small school in a small area. It was 3 hours to Sioux Falls, 3 hours to Fargo, 5 hours over to Minneapolis. That drive to pick up recruits or pick up players in Minneapolis is you drive 5 hours there, turn around and come right back.
Sure.
It was definitely different. This has been a different recruiting piece here. And then the games, you travel to a different time zone out in western North Dakota for a conference game one weekend. The next weekend you're over in La Crosse, Wisconsin, or down to Omaha. That was a lot of travel, which now having a kid would be extremely difficult. But at the time, it was a lot of fun. It was our guys built a lot of relationships in those road trips and bus trips and staying over in hotels. So we do miss that portion of it. Got opportunity to play a lot of Division I schools, all the way from Weber State to Montana State to University of North Dakota and South Dakota State. Played some really good teams. So we got some great opportunities. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, let's touch on that. You were, I know briefly when I had spoke to you yesterday, you had said maybe that you guys were looking to potentially, hopefully get a couple D1s on your schedule. And I just tweeted something out. It feels like the D3s, the D1s and the D2s of the world are like setting up an AAU schedule the week before. But hopefully it sounds like maybe you have a couple cracks at it, or at least you're reaching out to try to get some Division ones.
The people we know, we've let them know, hey, we are starting January 4th. We're going to be testing up to the NCAA protocols. If you need a game, please let us know. We'll see if we can work something out. We had previously had Bradley University scheduled for a regular or for a game this year in November. Obviously, we weren't playing in November. They didn't start till November 25th. So that may be an option still if something happens there. Talk to Coach Springer there a little bit. Like I say, it's been crazy. This scheduling is unheard of at the Division I level. Our assistant coach, Coach Davis, his brother Al is an assistant at Bellarmine University. I believe just last night they set up the game they played today with Notre Dame. I mean that's crazy. Yeah. All the logistics that go into that and figure out how to do that. But well, at this point, we want to get our guys games, and I think those Division I games are a great experience, great opportunity. Majority of us weren't recruited by those schools, so opportunity to go into an arena and play is pretty special. Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you mentioned kind of there in passing, you had mentioned protocols. I know most recently the N4C conference, which hosts like Rock Valley, the winter sports, other teams in that conference are like College of DuPage and Joliet. They had canceled all of their winter sports. And then when I had talked to you yesterday, it sounds like obviously you guys are continually moving forward. And then you mentioned protocols. Can you explain what the protocols are? I know it's just, I'd love to not touch on COVID, because you hear about it every single day. Right. But certainly it's important for us to get back in the gym and kids to get back in the gym. And it seems like a lot of people are saying, well, the big time schools or the NBA's doing it. Why can't we as young kids play in Illinois? And not getting into politics per se, but what are the protocols that you guys are putting together as a school to get your athletes back on the floor?
Well, first of all, I think it's just really important that we figure out a way to play. But that being said, I can't fault anybody that's deciding not to play. There is so much going into it, so much money to get this to be a safe thing. There's a lot of work, and there's just sometimes it's just not even possible. And we want people to be safe. We want people. Look like most kids are going to be okay with this, but depends on who they're around. Again, we don't want to get into all the politics of it. I don't pretend to know anything. I don't know anybody more than anybody else. But I can't fault anybody that's not playing, because it's you want everybody to be safe. And I'm really blessed and fortunate to have the administration, have our president and our people at our school and our athletic director that are really trying to make everything happen so we can play. And we've moved some money around. We've done some other things to get this testing stuff. This testing is not cheap. I don't know all the exact prices and what every team's paying and all that, but I know that it's not cheap. And we're going to be starting on January 4th with our testing. We'll be testing every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Our guys will be getting tested from 8 a.m. till 10 a.m. and then we'll get into our practice after that. And so we'll know right away. We'll be able to test right there at school, and we'll know right after that. If somebody tests positive, they're going to be held out. We're still going to be wearing our masks and keeping our distancing off the floor. And then even kind of, if we're not in a specific drill, coaches will be wearing that. And I can't stand wearing that. I don't know who likes to actually wear it. But at this point, we want a chance to play. So we're going to do whatever we need to do to get on the floor. So all that testing stuff, that's a lot of work behind the scenes, and what little bit of a pain it is for us coaches and players to get there every day and get tested. There's a lot of people doing a lot of things to make that work and to come up with the money, and our kids deserve it. I'm just really appreciative that our administration is trying to do their best to make a student positive experience.
Yeah, I noticed you're the president, as a graduate of Rockford University, actually. I think it's pretty awesome that you guys are fighting for obviously the student athletes. And then I noticed the president of Rockford University, and I don't want to slaughter his name, but he, in regards to pronunciation, but he's got a lot of news recently in regards to being associated with the athletic um, association with the NCAA at the Division III level. I skimmed the article. I didn't read it completely, but can you give me a little bit of information and everybody listening in regards to a little bit of background in regards to what that actually means?
Yeah, as far as now, Dr. Fulcomer is what I call him.
Okay.
Everybody calls him Eric. I'm a little old school. I'm Mr. and Mrs. Doctor, whatever. So,
Doctor.
yeah. So Doctor, he, he got nominated or appointed on that President's Council for NCAA Division III. And I don't know if people know about NCAA Division III. It's the largest of all divisions of college basketball as far as the amount of institutions.
Sure.
Obviously Division I's the biggest name, but there's actually more Division III schools across the country than any other level.
Sure.
So to be a part of that, the governing body of that, where you're making decisions, you're putting some of these protocols in place, national tournament stuff, it's a great honor for him. It's a well-deserved honor for him, and it's really cool for Rockford University that we have somebody in that prestigious of a position, and it shows that he cares about student athletes. So yeah, he deserves that, and he's going to do a great job in that appointment.
That's awesome. So, in regards to your season, that following it last year and kind of jumping into this year, I know you have a few kids that are returning and a few newcomers that are kind of, I guess from the Rockford area, and some of the ones I guess that I'm familiar with, that I've either coached or been around or coached against, or had play in some of our all-star games in the area. Can you tell us a little bit about, the kids that are returning, maybe the kids that are transferring? I know Nick Phillips just recently transferred from Rockford,
Yep.
Rock Valley College. And I know that's a huge recruit for you, because I think he's a solid kid and a solid player.
Yep.
And he'll certainly do well for you. Can you talk to us about some other kids?
Well, like I said, talk about, yeah. Like I say, we have great people. We had over a 3.0 GPA as a team in the fall semester. I don't worry about off the court issues.
Sure.
Early on in the school year, we had a bunch of guys in the gym, maybe not understanding the full protocol or whatever. And if the worst thing we do is play an open gym this year and get through that, we'll be okay. So we got through that portion of it. Our returners kind of starts with Brandon Emmerich, because our leading returning scorer. Brandon is a guy, when I first got this job, I started watching film like, holy cow, this kid plays hard, he plays fast. And a couple things that I just thought, I talked to him and said, hey, I'd like you to rein this in a little bit or do this a little bit, and I'm going to let you go. And he bought into that. And he is a phenomenal leader, a phenomenal player for our team. He's from Elkhart, Indiana.
Okay.
I've actually I've coached 3 All-Americans in my career, and all 3 have been from Indiana. So I like Indiana basketball too. We're going to recruit local, try to get our Rockford kids, but I'm also a guy that
plugging Indiana.
Honestly, we'll recruit anywhere. We want to get local kids, but I think there's a lot of talent in this area. You want to keep those guys. But
Sure.
I also think that some of the best experiences from some of the guys I've talked to in the past is, you're from so some guys are from a small town in South Dakota, and you have a teammate from Phoenix and a teammate from Louisiana, a teammate from Florida. You have family for life. I've had guys that spent their Christmas break in Louisiana when they're from Las Vegas and South Dakota. Just to, that's pretty special. So we're not going to go away from that. We like that we have guys from France and Italy and Las Vegas and Florida and kind of everywhere in between.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
We'll keep that, because I think that's an important piece to college basketball. But
how is can you talk to us a little bit, or maybe me selfishly, maybe about the Dominic Renteria kid that played at Harlem, Harns, that I came from Byron,
yep.
And then Kevin Deemer, who actually played at Boylan actually for me when he was a junior. And then his older brother Tony had a nice little career at Rockford University as well.
Yeah.
But talk to us a little bit about those 3.
Yeah. So for some more of those returners, I'll start quick with Vincent Eugene and Jaleel Stevens are 2 other returners. One's from Houston, one's from Las Vegas. Both those guys played for me out in South Dakota.
Nice.
So when I got the job here, they came with, I can't tell you how much that means to me from a loyalty standpoint, and for what kind of great guys those are, that we were happy they're here. So excited about, Brandon being a returner, those 2 guys. And then returning standpoint, Dom Renteria was a guy that was, on varsity last year, played a little bit of JV, can shoot the heck out of it, is an absolute gym rat. There's also that little help that he played for Coach Winters, my high school coach. He played for him. That there's a lot of things that I think that he already understood that we like to do. So he's been phenomenal. Again, just absolute gym rat guy that does everything the right way. And we look forward to see him make his progression this year at the varsity level. Kevin Deemer is a guy that, again, I watched the film and I got the job and I'm like, holy cow, I love this kid. Well, then we got here and he decided to play, had some kind of knee issues and just some other things, decided not to play last year. And when we spoke again after this season and he decided he wanted to play, I was thrilled the coaching staff and then we had some practice first semester and he's, everything that we want in a program, energy, hard work, all that stuff, he brings that every day. So the gym is just better when he's in it. So we're excited to have him back on the floor. Nick Phillips, like I say, watched him play at Rock Valley, can shoot the heck out of it, does a lot of great things. We had a really candid conversation on, here's the things you do really well. Here's the things I think you need to do better to play for me. That's just my personal, what I'm looking for. He said, yep, I'm going to do that. And another guy's been absolutely phenomenal. And I've had some really good shooters over the years, but he has a chance to be right up there as one of the best because his shot is pure. It looks the same every time. He's got confidence, and I think he's going to do really well for us.
Yeah, he can win you some games by putting it up.
Yep. So.
And then how about the Harns kid? Is he a sophomore?
Yeah, Connor Harn. So he'll be a sophomore. We can get into that later on. All these guys are not going to be losing a year, so we could play 10 games or 15 games, and we're going to get our year back. But Connor's one of those guys that has the size, has the ability, a smart player, a great passer. I think again we had a candid conversation this off season, and I think he was disappointed himself. I was a little disappointed in him last year. I think that's just a transition going from high school to being the biggest kid on the floor every night to getting to college and just being different.
Sure.
And I have been really impressed with him this off season, and then this fall he's been great. He's a guy that's always asking to get in the gym extra times with our coaches after practice, and that's how I know he's taking the right steps because he's getting extra time in the gym. He's worked really hard. We know the physical gifts he has, and his mindset has changed, I think. And he's gotten tougher. He's done a lot of positive things. I'm looking forward to him. He can be a very special player.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm much more familiar with Kevin Deemer because I've been around him, and I just, he just makes everybody around him better.
Really does.
And then right when you're waiting for somebody to step up 3/4 of the way through the game, he seems to have a knack for the basket. And he just kind of does it pretty timely.
Yep.
But it seems like Harns, just seeing him just a little bit through high school, he's got a great Division III body, a great body in general, I guess. But I saw him play, and I think the regional loss maybe or sectional loss to Winnebago. And he kind of rolled his ankle a little bit. And when he went out, Byron struggled a little bit because he did some good things.
Yep.
And I think he's gonna help you load with all those other, all the additional guards.
We have some really good guard play, and our 5-man last year did absolutely everything we asked him to do. Jamar Rivera was a 6'2", 25-year-old senior, and he busted his butt. And that's he'd never played a 5-man. We put him there, and he busted his butt. And we have phenomenal guard play. It's just that position we were lacking. I think we addressed that this year with Connor improving. Kevin will play the 5 some. We have another freshman in from Houston I really like at that position. So
nice.
I think we've really improved at that spot. Just overall size. We just need to get bigger all the way across. And Connor's development in this offseason has been really good to see.
Yeah, sure. So in addition to obviously who's coming back, you got some good young kids coming in. I'm familiar with a lot of the names, but I guess the ones that I guess I know the best: the Bell kid, the Carter kid, both from Beloit. Bankhole from Jefferson and Davis from East. Seems like you got some good young kids coming in to help contribute either out of the gate or, hopefully, obviously, in a couple of years.
Yeah, those 4 guys are great. This is probably my best freshman class I've ever coached. And people are like, oh, really? And I was like, yeah, this is, for one thing, we target a little bit more freshmen. I think our assistant coach did a great job of getting out and seeing these kids. And I love their game. I love their attitudes. They're the same guys in the gym. But that again starts with some of our returners and our leaders. Like this is what we do. And the thing that's always fresh, it's weight room and skill and speed and all that stuff matters a ton. But
Sure.
mental stuff is as important or more important to me as a freshman coming in. I tell our returners, our seniors, you can make or break these freshmen by showing them the right mindset to have. And not everything's going to go exactly the way you want it as a freshman. It's just going to be difficult. That freshman year is going to be really difficult. And these guys have all handled it really well, especially with the difficult stuff we're going through this year. They've handled it really well. I think I've been able to be more patient, not playing games right away in
Sure.
November. I've been able to be more patient with them. So I like our freshman group a lot. Jaden Bell is a good sized freshman, a high IQ guy. Him and Jax Carter are both two guys that can play for us. They're going to have to get more vocal, and they know that. And that's something we just stress. I think that's communicating on offense, communicating on defense, both. That's just the thing they're just going to have to get a little more accustomed to. Jaden Brandon Davis, you're not going to find a kid in the gym more than him. He is in there constantly, and it might be these three guys in here, or these three guys in there, but he's in there with whatever group's in the gym. He's in the gym getting up shots and working. And I think he's a kid that's going to grow. I'm really impressed with him.
Yeah.
And Mike's another guy, got a great college basketball body, extremely coachable, hardworking. So those four guys are going to be a lot of fun to coach. I'm looking forward to seeing them progress. I think there's an opportunity for them to contribute this year. And I think that on maybe some other teams, if we didn't have such good returners, they would be thrown into the fire right away. And maybe there's still going to be an opportunity. We got a good couple of weeks of practice coming in here in January, and they're going to have every opportunity to come in and compete and play right away. So I'm looking forward to see what their competition is like in practice. Are they going to back down or battle people? That first semester was a lot of no contact kind of offense stuff where they did a great job at. This next semester, we're going to see where their mindset's at.
Yeah, look, it seems to me from Banco, it sounded like he will be stepping in next year, not this year. But I've watched him play over the last couple of years, and sometimes he'll have like 8 threes in a game, and then all of a sudden, maybe he will only have 2 or 0 or whatever it is. And I watch him play, and I think, man, that kid's going to be able to contribute in a couple of years. Same thing with Jaden Davis. I watch him play. I think he's a solid player. I think sometimes those guys may have fell behind a couple of the bigger names, at East or Jefferson. But I think those guys can play basketball, and I think they're going to contribute and hopefully, obviously continue to make a name not only for themselves, but, some of the better players that have played at Rockford University in the last, 10, 15 years or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing with freshmen, just the consistency. Both those guys can shoot, just doing it on a consistent basis and doing that. And again, they have the right mindset, so I have no doubt they're going to be successful.
Yeah, talk to us a second about we jumped on Nick Phillips.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to us the relationship you have with Rock Valley in regards to kids, recruiting kids, understanding that, hey, you know what, we're both in Rockford, we can still both support each other and ultimately have a good relationship. There's a couple kids over at Rock Valley that whether they stay an additional year at Rock Valley or what, that eventually they'll make it over to Rockford University and play basketball in Rockford for 4 years.
Well, one of the first things that when I was recruiting Nick, he said is I'm from Rockford. I love Rockford. I want to keep representing this city. And so that was great for him to play at Guilford, play at Rock Valley, and come over and play for us. I hope more people continue that in those footsteps. Obviously I understand people kind of want to get away from college sometimes. I think we have some great things at our university. So I hope we get some more Rockford guys that do that. And whether it's come right to us out of high school or go to Rock Valley, I think Coach Bradyhoff and Coach Hicks do a phenomenal job at Rock Valley. We want to recruit their kids because we know they've been coached right. We know they've been held accountable. We know they've been helped out. I've known Coach Hicks for a long time, being the kind of that background with William Penn University. And I got to know Coach Bradyhoff these last couple of years and have a great respect for those guys. I don't think it needs to be a competition. I think let's recruit guys who want to recruit, and then we can kind of, what's the best fit? Let's lay out. I'm not a high pressure salesman type recruiter. I'm going to say this is what we are as a university. This is what we are as a coaching staff. This is what we are as a team. And I think some of my best players have been some of the easiest recruits because they know who we are. They want to be a part of it. And the guys you have to kind of chase down and call and don't respond, and maybe they end up coming to you because you just pressure enough. That doesn't always work out. So we want guys that want to be there. I love the opportunity to be, talking about being in South Dakota. There was no junior colleges out there, and I just love watching college basketball. So it's nice that when we don't have a game, I can go catch a Rock Valley game to support those guys and just to watch basketball. That's a lot of fun to be able to watch live basketball. So build relations with those guys. There's several players on that team that we'd sure love to have, and we'll keep recruiting. And I'm looking forward to watching them get back on the floor next year.
Yeah, talk to us about your your grad assistants at Rockford University. I know right before COVID hit, they were looking forward to working some of our camps and everything along those lines. And then obviously kind of once COVID came along, holding off to make sure that we're not spreading this any further was certainly the right decision. But talk to me about it. I got to know them, and I was quite impressed with what their pedigree is and where they come from. They're not the guy next door that you just turn around and hire on as a grad assistant. They seem to be you 10 years ago that's traveling the country and going to find a job because they love basketball.
I think that's important. I think is you kind of have to go through some difficulties and volunteer and some struggles to get into coaching. I think you appreciate that much more, and I think that's how you kind of are built up. And I had a lot of people help me out. I didn't get coaching just on my own. I had a ton of people help me out. And when I got the job here, Coach Ramos was here. Nick Ramos had played at Rockford and was the GA. And as a coming in, I was like, man, I kind of like to hire my own guys. That's kind of how I've always been as a coach. The kind of the coaching trees I came from, we hired people from within and our own people, just because coaching world's a weird world. There's kind of sometimes there's people trying to get over on each other, and I'm big on loyalty, and the people I come from are big on loyalty. So I made me a little bit nervous coming into a staff and keeping him on staff, but I didn't want, as a graduate assistant, he's halfway through his master's, I want to keep him on board. Sure. And I got to know him, and Coach Ramos was a phenomenal guy, extremely smart, way smarter than I'll ever be. He's got his MBA, he works for Savant Capital Management, does all that stuff that I can't comprehend. And he was great to have around to help us with the conference, understand the conference, help us understand some of the returners. And he's a guy I said, hey, if you wanted to get into coaching, you have to go wherever. He's like, yeah, I want to do that. So he actually interviewed for a junior college assistant job out in Dawson Community College in Glendive, Montana. And when he interviewed for that and said he would take it if he got offered, I said, all right, this guy wants to coach. That's about 5,000 people in eastern Montana. No, he didn't end up getting the job, but it was a great interview experience. He ended up getting hired at Marshalltown Community College out in Marshalltown, Iowa. For coach, he's assistant for Coach Ryan Flack, who I've known for a while, and some coaching connections there. And he's doing a great job there. He was actually able to run some practices this year. They start playing games next semester. One of the other assistant coaches at Marshalltown is a former player of mine, Michael Dees. So it's kind of funny to see a guy that played for me for a couple of years coaching with a guy that was a graduate assistant here last year. So I'm proud of him. He's worked his way up. He's earned that. I'm excited to see him kind of switch from that Division III and some of those type of athletes and kids to a Division I junior college in Iowa, where they're getting kind of guys from all the country. It's going to be a good learning experience for him. He's going to do a really good job with that. So other coaches, Coach Rufus Williams is another guy that I've known for a long time. We have that William Penn University background. He was a graduate assistant there. And he's such a loyal, hardworking, unselfish guy that he came to Rockford. We were hoping to get him some kind of pay. It didn't work out. He's here in Rockford. He's from down south in Alabama. Went to school in Iowa. He's here in Rockford working 3 other jobs, coaching AAU, all that stuff to volunteer. And he comes into the gym. We don't see him in the office a lot during the day because he's working in the off season. But you'll come in at 11 o'clock at night, and he'll be in there rebounding for 3 guys. So that tells you what kind of person and hard worker he is. That he's there for the guys. He's there for them as people, as players, all that stuff. So Rufus is phenomenal for our program. And then our head assistant, Chris Davis, is a guy that played at Nyack, Northern Iowa Area Community College in Iowa, played at Washburn, Division II in Kansas, and then actually finished up at Minot State in North Dakota. I haven't known him real long, but I've known his family a long time. I actually coached his older brother, Quincy Davis. Their family's from Colorado Springs, and Quincy played for me. He was one of my first recruits out to presentation, and he's a guy that stuck through a couple of our early bad years and was that guy that was there when we finally got to the winning program. And I owe a lot to Quincy. And so when his brother was coaching, Chris was at Briarcliff. I knew what kind of family he came from. I knew what kind of person he was, what kind of worker he was. And Chris is, I can't ask for a better coach. I mean, all people say this about their staff. I'm blessed to have these guys here. And then Sawyer Cook is a new GA we hired this year to replace Nick Ramos. Sawyer's from Green Bay area. Yep. Played at Dakota State, where a former player of mine, Trevor Flemmer, is the assistant at Dakota State. And I told him I was looking for a GA. He goes, "You got to hire Sawyer." We interviewed him, and we interviewed several people for this GA position. We treated it like a full-time job, and he blew us away with his knowledge of the game, with his knowledge of our program. He obviously watched film on us, and he came into it, and he leads our lifting program. Now, as a young coach right out of college. He's got a lot to learn, but he's an eager learner. He's very smart, picks up stuff quickly. So again, I'm more than blessed to have our staff.
Yeah, it's interesting over the years, whether it's Rockford University or Rock Valley College, just locally, all the head coaches that have had success turn to their assistants and thank them. So I knew that was the case kind of walking into this after knowing those guys just a little bit,
Yeah.
and knowing you quite a bit. If I'll throw a Don Meyerism out there, it's like I want guys that want to be head coaches,
Yep.
and I want guys, I want guys that want to be head coaches, and I want guys that want a head coaching job, just not my job.
Yeah.
And I could be wrong, but I've studied Don Meyer probably too long. And I'm sure that's probably a Don Meyerism somewhere, but
Yeah.
you're fortunate certainly to have a lot of good guys around you, and that just builds the whole program. And I think when kids come to schools, those relationships with not only the head coach, but multiple assistant coaches and Rockford University making a commitment to them, is certainly important as well.
Right.
Well, hey, so I appreciate you jumping on. And like I told you before we started recording this, you're my first ask.
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Usually
when I get asked something, I get asked down the list, but I know you're a solid person. You're a solid kid. You're a solid player, much to your chagrin, I guess. But I wish you the most success at Rockford University. I know that you'll be super successful. If you ever need anything, you can always hit me up, as hopefully you know that you can do. I don't know everything, but I do know a little bit. I've been around this area for a long time. And I loved hearing the story. I loved hearing the optimism from you for Rockford University. Andrew Weber certainly did a ton of great things at Rockford University prior to you. And I look forward to, watching and continually seeing your success at Rockford.
I appreciate that. Look forward to it as well.
Absolutely. So now I got to go find my wife. I think she's at a Christmas party someplace with like 3 people just to remain underneath COVID. But, I've been wrapped up for a few months. So getting online and talking to people, that mean a lot to me. I appreciate it a ton.
Well, you look good. You don't look like, but you look good.
I just shaved for the first time like 2 days ago. And then I went and got a haircut at, Cost Cutters. And this was like, I look like a lumberjack prior to today. So I think most people recognize me for the beard, and the shaggy, but my wife actually says that when my beard connects with the back of my hair,
oh boy,
that's the time that I got to get
That's the time, guys. You're looking like 2004 to me.
You know what? The funny part is I might look like 2004, but I weigh 315 pounds this morning on the scale. I gotta figure something out. I gotta get down to a nice sweet 250, and then I'll be in good shape.
Maybe we'll get to shovel some snow pretty soon.
Yeah. So I don't have any asks from you except for one.
Yeah.
So every day I drop off my kids at school, I ask them one thing, and I say, hey, how can you make somebody else's life better? And they always give me an answer. So I got a t-shirt coming for you, and it doesn't say Coach Warner, doesn't blow me up at all, but it's a t-shirt that just says, hey, how can you make somebody else's life better? If I send it to you and you shoot me your address, will you wear it? And then just be obligated to do that, which I know you already do.
Absolutely.
Sounds good. I appreciate it, buddy. Hit me up if you ever need anything. And I'll make sure that I add in all your contact information. One last thing. What's the best way to follow Rockford University basketball? For everybody watching, I can put in some nice little hyperlinks once I figure out how to do it. But I can add those to the bottom so somebody can click on that and save.
This is why it is so important to have great assistant coaches. I know I'm not necessarily that old, but I feel old. I am not a social media guy. I haven't had social media since MySpace in 2007. I stay away from all that stuff, but I know how important it is. I know that's what people do. So Coach Davis runs our Rockford MBB Twitter.
Awesome.
He puts a lot of stuff on there, and he does a great job with that. And that's kind of the first information comes out from there. Obviously, GoRegents.com is our athletic website, and there's a lot of great stuff on there. But it seems like stuff kind of pops up on the athletics Twitters faster. So goregents.com, athletic site, and Rockford MBB is our Twitter. I hope I didn't screw that up, Coach Davis, but he does a good job keeping that stuff updated. So yeah, please follow us. Please let us know if there's anything we can do. I want to get us more visible in the community. I want to help people out. I don't want to be a program or a person that just takes. I want to offer things back. We went down the Rockford Rescue Mission, did some stuff back in the fall. That was a lot of fun. I think it's important for our guys to be servant leaders. So if there's any stuff out there somebody needs help with, maybe it is shoveling snow. Let us know. We got a lot of hands. We got a lot of willing people. Let us help people out, please.
Awesome. I appreciate it, and have a good night, and enjoy your newborn son.
I really am.
Congratulations.
Appreciate that.
All
Merry
right.
Christmas.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks.